There is a kind of silence that arrives not with fear, but with relief. It comes when the last message has been answered, when the last light in the kitchen has been turned off, when the city outside your window finally remembers how to soften its voice. It is not an empty silence, it is a gentle presence, like a warm blanket laid over the sharp edges of the day. If you are listening from a bed, let your shoulders drop a little. Let your jaw loosen. Let your hands rest wherever they feel most comfortable. And if your thoughts are still moving, little footsteps in the hallway of your mind. Tonight you don't have to chase them. You don't have to solve anything. You can simply let this story flow through you instead of you having to follow it. Are you ready to let the story flow through you instead of you having to follow it? In these quiet hours between sleep and waking, stories behave differently. They do not demand. They do not argue. They do not insist on conclusions. They move the way tidewater moves, slow, steady, and patient, bringing small, shining things from far away, then setting them down at your feet. Tonight, I'd like to bring you one of those small, shining things, not as a statement, not as a claim, more like a lamp cupped in two hands, a whispered possibility carried on the breath of very old words. Imagine, for a moment, a museum after closing. The doors have been locked, the last footsteps have faded, the air is cool and still, with that faint, clean scent of stone and paper and dust that has drifted for decades, maybe centuries, in a building that exists to hold time gently in place. In the dim, softened light, glass cases stand like quiet ponds. Inside them, clay tablets rest on dark velvet, their surfaces impressed with tiny wedge-shaped marks, cuneiform, the earliest handwriting of the world. Each mark is small, simple, almost like a bird's track on wet sand, and yet together those marks carry entire lives, lists of barley and sheep, prayers whispered to the sky, contracts sealed by a thumbprint, love songs written down so they would not be forgotten. There is something soothing about that. The thought that long ago, someone felt the same need you feel now, to set down what mattered, to make a small order out of the passing hours. If you were there, you might lean in close to the glass. You might notice the way the clay holds light, not shining, but quietly catching it, like river mud after rain. You might see chips on the corners where time took its tiny bites, and you might notice the spaces, little gaps, where the tablet is broken, where the sentence stops, where the story becomes silence again. Those gaps are not failures, they are invitations. Because in ancient writing, what is missing can sometimes soothe more than what is said. A blank space does not argue with you. A broken line does not force your mind to work hard. It simply breathes. And in those breaths, imagination returns, softly, gently, like a cat stepping into a warm room. Before we drift deeper into tonight's gentle journey, remember to subscribe to Ancient Sleep Story. Here you'll always find peaceful stories that soothe the heart and quiet the mind. Where are you listening from tonight? Leave a comment. Your presence adds warmth to this quiet corner of the night. Here, no one rests alone. Every story from the past is a soft lantern in the dark, gently lighting our way tonight. If tonight's story reminded you of a beautiful memory, feel free to share it below. If this story brought you calm, leave a gentle comment for yourself. Don't forget to subscribe for more peaceful nighttime journeys. Now, let us return to the Museum of Time. Picture a single tablet no bigger than a paperback book, resting in its case as if it is sleeping too. The label beside it has a date, 4,000 years ago, give or take a few lifetimes. The language is Sumerian or Akkadian or something in between. A tongue that once filled marketplaces and temples and riverbanks, and now survives as quiet marks pressed into clay. Somewhere in those marks there are names that still sound like wind over reeds, Anu, Enlil, Enki, and a word that has drifted into modern imagination like a star seen through fog, Anunnaki. In schoolbooks and museum catalogues, those names are usually explained in a careful, grounded way, deities of ancient Mesopotamia, figures in myth, symbols woven into stories about the world and its order. That is the respectful, historical truth. These are myths, and myths are the way humans once held the unknown. But sometimes, especially at night, when you are not trying to win an argument, only trying to understand the feeling of something, another kind of reading becomes possible. Not the reading of certainty, the reading of wonder. What if the old stories are not only about gods? What if, beneath the titles and the thunder, there is also the memory of travelers, not holy, not perfect, simply far away, simply tired, simply searching? If you are the kind of listener who loves gentle mysteries, you may already know this sensation, the sense that a legend is a cloak thrown over something fragile, something human-shaped. A myth is not always a lie. Sometimes it is a soft container made to hold grief or awe or the weight of questions that could not be answered in any other way. And so tonight we will treat the Anunnaki as a story told in the lamplight of early cities. We will treat them as an echo in the quiet hours between sleep and waking. We will not rush. We will not insist. We will simply walk beside the old words and let them show us what they can. In many tablets and epics there is an image of arrival, not a loud arrival, not a parade, more like a presence settling into the world, like a new star appearing in a familiar sky. There is also, if you read softly, an important truth hidden in plain sight. Arrival is not the same as triumph. Sometimes arrival is only enough ground to stand on, enough water to drink, enough time to breathe again. In a modern life, you might recognize that too. There are days when you do not need victory. You only need a quiet place to sit, a room where you can exhale, a corner of the night where nothing asks you to perform. So imagine a distant world in the old stories, not described clearly, not named in a way we can point to on any map, but hinted at in fragments, in metaphors of dimming light and hard choices. Imagine a civilization that once felt stable and then slowly became strained, not with sudden catastrophe, but with the slow tightening that comes when resources thin, when weather changes, when the future begins to feel smaller. The ancient texts do not give us photographs, they give us feelings, a counsel, a debate, a long, tired conversation, and a decision made not because it was beautiful, but because it was necessary to leave. If you've ever had to leave something behind, an old home, an old version of yourself, a season of life that could not continue, then you already understand the emotional shape of that decision. Even when leaving is the right choice, it can carry a quiet ache. You can be grateful and grieving at the same time. And perhaps that is why, in some readings of these myths, the gods do not sound like celebration. They sound like weight, like beings carrying what they have lost. Again, we do not say this is history carved in stone. We say it is a way the mind can listen softly to the hints, the gaps, the silence between the lines. Now the story begins to drift as if you are floating above a map. The darkness around you is not threatening, it is spacious. It is the kind of darkness that lets your eyes rest. And below, the earth is not yet filled with highways and glass towers and constant sound. It is a young world in human terms, and an ancient world in the language of rocks. It has water, it has air, it has forests in places and deserts in others. It has oceans that breathe in slow rhythms, waves that never hurry. And as you drift closer, you notice a particular place, a gentle seam of green in a landscape that is otherwise sun and stone, a land between two rivers, the Tigris and the Euphrates. Even their names sound like flowing. In that place, the air can smell of wet reeds and fertile soil. The horizon is wide and soft, birds lift from marshes, night insects sing quietly, and in the distance, small clusters of light begin to appear, not electric light, but firelight, lamps in clay bowls, flames sheltered from wind. Eridu, Nippur, Uruk. They are not loud cities yet, they are beginnings, lanterns on the edge of a long human story. And somewhere near those rivers, in the hush before full dawn, the old myths place their visitors, whatever they were called, whatever they truly were, to those who first spoke their names. Not as a thunderclap, as a quiet arrival, and if you listen closely, you can almost hear the way the world holds its breath, just for a moment, as if waiting to see what comes next. In the next part of our journey, we will step down from the sky drift and onto the riverbank. We will walk slowly through reed beds and early streets. We will let the sounds be soft. We will let the discoveries be gentle. For now, allow your body to sink a little deeper into rest. Nothing to do, nowhere else. Let the museum lights dim. Let the tablet lie warm in its velvet cradle. Let the river names repeat like a lullaby, Eridu, Nippur, Uruk. And let the night, long and kind, carry you forward. The first thing you notice once you step down from the wide sky of imagination and onto the riverbank is how quiet history can be. Not quiet like something abandoned, but quiet like something carefully kept. The air here is cool and a little damp, the way air feels near water before sunrise. If you listen closely, you can hear reeds moving, softly brushing against one another, as if the land itself is whispering. Somewhere in the dark, a bird gives a single sleepy call, then falls silent again. The river continues its low, steady sound, a living line that never truly stops. And if your day has been loud, if your mind has been busy or crowded or overfull, this is a good place to arrive, a place where sound is not sharp, where nothing demands your attention in quick, urgent bursts. Everything moves slowly here, the way breath moves in and out without effort. So let your breathing match the river for a moment, in and out. Not forcing, not fixing, just allowing. In the stories we tell ourselves about the past, ancient cities often feel distant and dramatic, towering temples, commanding kings, burning suns. But on the ground, at the level of human feet, the beginning of civilization can feel surprisingly gentle. It starts with water, it starts with mud, it starts with hands. Picture the river in the earliest light. It is not yet golden, it is more like pewter, a soft metal sheen under a sky that is still blue-black. Along the edges, the banks are thick with silt, the kind that holds the imprint of a toe or a heel. If you were barefoot here, you would feel the coolness seep upward, grounding you. A little farther inland, the first structures appear. Low walls of packed clay, rounded corners, doorways that are not tall. Smoke rises from a cooking fire, thin and pale. A lamp glows faintly behind a reed mat. The city is waking slowly, like a person stretching in bed. And somewhere in a courtyard that faces the river, someone is already working. Not with a sword, with a stylus. A simple reed cut to a point, held like a pencil. A lump of clay sits on a board, damp and pliable. The scribe's hands are steady. Each press of the reed leaves a tiny wedge mark, angled and precise. Tap, press, lift, tap, press, lift. A rhythm so consistent it could soothe you all by itself. If you have ever watched rain bead on a window or listened to a fan turning in the dark, you know this kind of comfort, repetition without urgency. A pattern that asks nothing of you except to be present. The scribe is not thinking about the future of writing. They are thinking about a list, grain measured in baskets, oil poured into jars, sheep counted at the edge of a field. But the miracle is quiet. By making marks in clay, they are learning how to hold time. As the light grows, you can imagine stepping into the narrow lanes of Eridu. The ground is firm where it has been walked many times, and the air smells of river water and smoke and something faintly sweet, dates drying on a mat perhaps. A goat bleats once, then settles. A child's laughter echoes briefly between walls, then disappears. Notice how the city does not shout. It murmurs, and in that murmur you can begin to sense what the ancient texts rarely say directly: the texture of everyday life. The way people moved, the way they waited, the way they paused to look up at a sky that belonged to everyone. If you look toward the horizon, you can see the Temple Mound rising, not a towering skyscraper, but a steady shape, layered and built over time. The temple is a place of offerings and stories, yes, but it is also, in a simple way, a place where people gather to feel less alone. That feeling, wanting to be less alone, does not belong only to modern knights. It belongs to this riverbank too. Now, in the museum of your mind, allow another room to open. A room not of clay, lanes and firelight, but of language. Because as you drift through Eridu, Nippur and Uruk, what you are really drifting through is the first great experiment of human memory, the choice to record. A tablet does not keep everything, it keeps what fits, and so it is full of silences. A line breaks off where the clay cracked. A corner is missing and the sentence becomes a hush. Sometimes, even when the tablet is whole, the writer assumes you already know the context. They do not explain, they simply write and leave the rest to shared understanding. And when we read those tablets now, thousands of years later, we meet those blank spaces like gentle fog. We cannot force the past to be complete. We can only stand in the soft uncertainty and listen. This is where the phrase returns like a half-remembered dream, a dream half-remembered. Not enough to wake you, not enough to make you analyze, just enough to cradle you in mystery without danger, not because the past is distant, but because it is near. Not because the tablet speaks loudly, but because it speaks in pauses, not because you must understand every mark, but because you can simply notice the calm of it. A wedge, a gap, a softened edge, a sentence that ends early, as if the writer was called away to dinner or to sleep or to watch the river for a moment. When you let those pauses exist, your own mind learns a small kindness. It stops gripping, it stops demanding a perfect picture. It allows mystery to be a resting place. If your thoughts have been circling today, replaying conversations, counting worries, making lists, you can imagine placing them, one by one, beside the tablet. Not to solve them, just to set them down. The clay holds impressions without judgment. The river carries reflections without keeping them. And you too can rest without holding everything so tightly for the rest tonight. Somewhere in that dreamlike space the old names live: Enki, Enlil, Anu, and the Anunnaki figures who stand at the edge of myth and memory like silhouettes against early dawn. In many traditional readings, they are divine beings. In some modern retellings, they are visitors. Tonight, they can also be a symbol, a way early people spoke about change, about power, about strangers arriving at the edge of a fragile world. If a group of newcomers came into an early city, unfamiliar tools, unfamiliar needs, how would you describe them to your children? Would you say they were tired travelers? Or would you say they were beings from above? Not because you wanted to deceive, but because you needed a shape that could hold the feeling of the moment. A shape that could become a story. And stories, once born, do what rivers do, they keep moving. Now let the scene shift gently as if you are turning a page. We move from Eridu's river-scented lanes to Nippur, a city that would become an anchor of meaning in the broad, flat land between rivers. The journey is not described as a march. It is described as drifting. You travel in the cool of evening. You follow canals that shine under moonlight. You pass fields where the stalks sway like slow waves. Somewhere, a farmer's lamp flickers, then steadies. The night is wide and the stars do not hurry. As you walk, you might notice something calming. The distance between places is measured in time, not in tension. A few hours of steady steps, a pause to drink, a pause to sit, a pause to watch the water. And if you are listening from your bed, you can let that pace become your own. You do not need to rush from thought to thought. You can rest between them. By the time you reach Nippur, the air feels slightly different, drier perhaps. The river is still near, but the city's presence is more arranged, as if the streets have been taught to stand straighter. You can imagine storerooms, courtyards, and baskets of tablets, records of offerings, trade, and seasons. Then Uruk appears in the distance, not as a sudden revelation, but as a gradual thickening of life. More voices at dusk, though still not loud, more smoke lines in the sky, more light points flickering like fireflies. And yet, when night fully arrives, Uruk quiets the way every home quiets. The heat releases slowly from bricks, the streets soften, the lamps become fewer. A last door closes with a gentle thud. In that settling, you might feel something important. The past is not a separate world. It is the same world, just wearing different clothes. People then also carried worry. They also wanted safety. They also lay down at night and listened for the sound of water, hoping tomorrow would be kind. And perhaps in that shared human hope, the old myths found their roots. Because a myth is not only a tale of gods, it is also a lullaby a civilization sings to itself. So as you drift through these quiet streets, let that lullaby reach you too. Let it wrap around your tired mind. Let it remind you that your worries are not strange. They are human. And if, somewhere in the next room of the museum, the story of visitors begins to take shape, if the Anunnaki begin to feel less like thunder and more like travelers, then you can allow that possibility to exist without strain. You do not have to decide what is true tonight. You only have to feel what is gentle. In the next part, we will step closer to the heart of the old mystery. But for now, stay here in the river light. Let the reeds whisper. Let the scribe's stylus tap softly in the distance. Let the clay tablet rest in its cradle of time. And let your own thoughts become quieter, one by one, as if they are lamps being turned down in a long, peaceful corridor. Some journeys are loud. They begin with slammed doors and hurried footsteps, with the sharp clatter of a mind that cannot stop planning. But the journey we take tonight begins the way sleep begins. Slowly, almost without you noticing. You are still in the Museum of Time, where clay tablets rest like sleeping stones behind glass. You are still in the quiet hours between sleep and waking, where your thoughts can soften and your body can let go. And yet, without any strain, the scene starts to move, like a curtain stirred by a gentle draught. The glass case fades, the velvet cradle fades, and in their place you find yourself drifting above a dark landscape as if the night itself has unfolded into a map. Below you, the world is broad and calm. There are no bright grids of city light, no highways stitched with white lines. Only the natural glow of moon and starlight, and the faint shimmer of water. The rivers are the first lines you recognize. They curve through the land like two long, patient thoughts, the Tigris and the Euphrates, meeting the moonlight, then carrying it forward. In places, they split into canals, smaller ribbons that branch and braid, watering fields that drink quietly in the dark. And around those rivers, the land breathes. It breathes in the coolness that rises from water. It breathes in the slow rustle of reeds. It breathes in the distant hush of wind moving over flat earth. As you drift, you can let your own breathing become part of that rhythm. Not forced, not counted, just gentle, in and out, like a tide that knows what to do without being told. Far below, small points of warmth appear, lamps, fires, embers held in clay bowls. They are not dramatic, they are simply human, and they are scattered like constellations on the ground, answering the constellations above. Eridu, Nippur, Uruk. Tonight, these names do not need to be facts you memorize. They can be sounds that soothe you, soft syllables that travel through the air like a lullaby. If your mind wants to hold on to something, let it hold on to those names the way you might hold on to the sound of rain. Eridu, Nippur, Uruk. Now the map drifts farther back as if you are floating higher. The land between the rivers grows smaller, and you begin to see the wider world around it. Darker deserts, pale mountain lines, the faint glitter of a distant sea. The planet feels quiet, young in one sense and impossibly old in another, as if it has been breathing for eons and will keep breathing long after any single story has ended. And because this is a sleep story, the planet can be described the way a lullaby describes, not to inform, but to calm. The planet was young, it had water, it had atmosphere, it had forests in pockets where rain lingered, it had oceans that rolled their slow shoulders against the shore, it had open skies that held the stars like scattered salt. And it had people. People who woke to the sound of birds, people who walked to the river with jars, people who warmed bread on stones and watched the flames' small dance. People who looked up at the moon and felt something too large to name. If you've ever stood under a night sky and sensed your own worries shrink just a little, you are in the right place. Because the ancient world, for all its differences, had the same sky, the same dark distance above, the same quiet invitation. You are small and you are safe enough to rest. As the drifting continues, the map begins to tilt gently, and your attention is guided toward a different horizon, one that is not on Earth at all, but in the mind's soft theatre, where myth becomes scenery. It is not a sharp shift like waking. It is a slow slide like sinking deeper into a pillow. You begin to sense a before in the story. Not a before that needs dates. A before that feels like weather. A before that feels like a long season, a slow tightening, a quiet pressure on the edges of life. In some old tellings, the gods argue, decide, arrive. But if you listen with the gentlest ear, you can translate the thunder into something softer, something human-shaped. You can imagine a group of beings, call them gods, call them travelers, call them an idea, standing at the edge of a choice. Behind them, something has become difficult, not necessarily sudden, simply hard to continue. And ahead of them, the world opens like a dark sea, unknown, wide, quiet. If you have ever faced a change you did not choose, you know that moment. the moment where your heart tries to hold two truths at once: gratitude for what was and grief for what cannot remain. Tonight, we will not press that moment into drama. We will let it be what it often is in real life: a quiet heaviness in the chest, a long look backward, a careful step forward. They carry the weight of what they have lost, not as a punishment, not as a failure, as a simple fact of leaving. Now the story returns to Earth, to the land between two rivers, where the night is still calm and the cities are still small lanterns. But something has shifted, like a new scent in the air. The world is the same, and yet it feels as though it is waiting for arrival. And here is where the old myths become tender, because in many stories, arrival is painted in bright colors: victory, conquest, triumph. But for those who have lived through real transitions, arrival often looks different. Arrival can be quiet. Arrival can be tired. Arrival can be nothing more than finding a place to stand without trembling. Arrival is not the same as triumph. Let those words fall gently into your mind, like a leaf into water. There is no demand inside them, only a small, soothing truth. Now picture a boat moving along a canal at night, not a warship, not a parade barge, a simple vessel of reed bundles and wood gliding through moonlit water. The oar dips with a soft splash, then lifts. The rhythm is slow. The boat carries jars, bundles, perhaps a sleeping child curled under a woven blanket. On the bank, someone holds a lamp up to see who is passing. The lamp's flame leans in the breeze, then steadies again. And in your imagination, you can allow another vessel to exist, one that is not made of reeds, not made of wood, but made of myth. It travels not only through water, but through story. It comes from elsewhere, whatever elsewhere meant to the people who first told it. Elsewhere can be the unknown. Elsewhere can be the part of life we do not control. And when elsewhere arrives at the edge of your world, you give it a name big enough to hold its shadow. Anunnaki. You can imagine the words spoken softly, not shouted. A name said near a fire as families settle down, as someone tries to make sense of a change they can feel but cannot fully explain. Tonight, we choose the wonder. We let the story be a lantern, not an alarm, so the travelers, if we allow them to be travelers, do not burst into the city with noise. They arrive the way night mist arrives, gradually, almost kindly, settling into the low places first. A new presence at the edge of the river, a new shape on the horizon, a quiet difference in the way the air feels. And because the cities are human, the people respond in human ways. They watch, they whisper, they keep the children close. They decide what kind of story will make the night feel safe. And if your mind is still searching for something to hold, let it hold the silence itself. In the oldest texts, silence is everywhere, in broken corners, in missing lines, in spaces where clay has crumbled into dust. Those gaps are not empty. They are gentle rooms. They teach a quiet skill, the ability to stop insisting, the ability to stop filling every pause with meaning. You can practice that skill now. Let a small pause settle after a sentence. Let your breath move in that pause. Nothing has to be solved. Nothing has to be proven. The night can simply carry you the way the river carries moonlight softly, without asking where it is going. Now, as dawn begins to pale the sky, the map-like drift carries you toward one particular place. A temple precinct quiet in early light. A courtyard where a scribe sits again with clay and stylus. A shelf where finished tablets are set to dry, their surfaces still damp, their marks still fresh. One tablet is placed carefully among the others. It is not a grand epic, yet it is not polished. It is a record, a fragment of someone trying to hold a moment. And on that tablet, among lists and names and offerings, there is a line that feels different, a line that even across millennia seems to breathe. It mentions those who came, not as rulers, not as monsters, simply as arrivals. As if the writer too understood something subtle, that the world had shifted, and that what mattered first was not power but presence. You lean closer in your imagination to the wet clay marks. You cannot read them perfectly. The language is old, the edges are uncertain, but you can feel the shape of meaning. In the next part of our story, we will follow that line. We will let it lead us through corridors of memory and silence. And very gently, without shock, without insistence, we will begin to see why the ancient world might have wrapped certain travelers in the clothing of gods. For now, let the tablet rest. Let the river keep moving. Let the stars fade slowly into morning. And let your own mind loosen, knowing that nothing needs to be solved tonight, only felt softly as you drift. The closer you listen to ancient stories, the more you notice how softly they were meant to be heard. Not shouted from a mountaintop, not hammered into the air like a command, but carried hand to hand, mouth to ear, lamp to lamp through ordinary nights. Imagine the city again, just after dusk. Uruk has settled into its evening rhythm. The heat of the day releases from the mud brick walls in slow sighs. A few lamps still glow behind reed curtains, warm and amber, like small hearts beating in the dark. Somewhere a pot is rinsed, water poured carefully, and the sound is gentle enough to feel like a lullaby. In one courtyard, a scribe sits cross-legged beside a low table. The clay tablet in front of them is still damp, cool to the touch. The reed stylus rests between their fingers like a calm promise. They do not rush. They press a wedge, lift, press another, and the marks appear as quietly as footprints in wet sand. Tap, press, lift, tap, press, lift. If your thoughts have been moving too fast today, you can let this rhythm slow them down. If your chest has been tight with unspoken worries, you can imagine it loosening little by little with each steady mark. There is no need to keep up. There is no test. Only a story breathing in front of you. Now, this is what the past often feels like when you meet it honestly, not a loud parade, but a room of careful silence. And in that room, you begin to sense something that historians and poets both understand, though they name it differently. The earliest writings were not only about gods and kings, they were also about scarcity and harvest, about canals and water rights, about bread, barley, beer, about who owed what and when, about the fragile art of living together beside rivers that could bless or wander or flood. It may surprise you how comforting that is, because it means the ancient world was built by the same steady, ordinary efforts you know so well. The same kind of effort you make when you pay a bill, wash a dish, answer a message, fold a towel. Small acts that keep a life from falling apart. You can almost see it here, the canals drawn like veins through the fields, carrying river water outward. You can smell the wet earth at the edge of the irrigation ditches. You can hear the soft scrape of a shovel, the murmured conversation of neighbors, the quiet satisfaction of a gate opened at the right time. And as the city becomes more real in your mind, the myths become more tender too. Because myths do not grow in empty air. They grow inside real streets, among real people, wrapped around real needs. Now let us drift, not far, only gently, into another chamber of the museum. This chamber is dimmer, the air is cooler, the shelves hold tablets that are older, more brittle, their edges worn down as if time has been stroking them for centuries. Here, the writing is not just accounting. Here, the writing begins to sing. It speaks of Enki, the lord of sweet waters, associated with Eridu, a figure who moves through reeds and canals as naturally as a fish. It speaks of Enlil, connected with Nippur, the wind and the breath of authority, the voice of order. It speaks of Inanna of Uruk, bright and complex, a star that can be gentle or fierce depending on the story. These names are not simply characters, they are ways the ancient mind held the world: water, wind, desire, harvest, sky. They are the poetry of survival. And then, in the background of some texts, like a distant procession, seen through fog, there are those of royal seed, those who came down, those who belong to the great assembly, the Anunnaki. A word that can feel heavy with mystery, yet also strangely human when spoken quietly. But you may have heard many loud versions of this name in the modern world. Tonight we will choose a softer way. We will treat the name like a lantern shade. It changes the light, but it does not become the flame. If you lean closer to the tablets, what you meet is not a single clear statement, but an atmosphere. Hints, titles, fragments, and silence, always silence, around the edges, a broken corner where a sentence might have explained everything. A missing line where a motive could have rested. A gap that refuses to be filled, and in refusing becomes strangely calming. A dream half remembered. That is how we will listen. Now picture the river again, in the pale light before sunrise. Along the bank, the water moves with patient strength. It does not argue. It does not hurry. It simply continues, carrying silt, carrying reeds, carrying reflections of stars that are about to fade. And near the river, in the story's soft theatre, there is a moment of arrival. Not a triumph, not a conquest, not a trumpet, just arrival. Arrival is not the same as triumph. Somewhere, someone notices newcomers on the edge of the fields. Not necessarily strangers from the sky, only strangers from elsewhere. People whose language sits differently in the mouth. People who look around as if they have been walking for a long time. People who carry bundles that are not luxuries, but necessities. The city responds the way cities do. With curiosity, with caution, with hospitality in small measures. A bowl of water offered. A place to rest in the shade. A question asked without sharpness. Where did you come from? The answer, in many myths, is from above, from the heavens, from the realm beyond. But in the quiet hours between sleep and waking, you might allow another meaning to stand beside it. From above can also mean from upriver, from the highlands, from a far horizon where the land rises and the air feels different, and heaven is sometimes just the name we give to what we cannot picture clearly. Here is the soft discovery, held gently so it does not wake you. What if the oldest stories used the language of gods to describe the arrival of people, not because the people were divine, but because the moment felt too large, too strange, too important to describe in ordinary words? A group arrives. They do not come singing. They come carrying the weight of what they have lost. And over time, their story becomes covered in sacred clothing. The way a treasured object is wrapped in linen for safekeeping. The linen does not change what the object is. It only protects it from being handled too roughly. So the travelers become those from heaven. The leaders become shining ones. Their rules become decrees. Their knowledge becomes gifts. Not because this is an exact record, but because this is how memory survives when it is fragile. And perhaps, just perhaps, this is why some lines in the old texts feel less like worship and more like recognition. They were not gods, they were refugees. Let that sentence land softly like a feather on water. It does not have to be an argument. It can be a feeling, a way of seeing the past with more compassion than certainty. If you have ever been exhausted or displaced or simply overwhelmed by change, you know the quiet truth hidden in that idea. Sometimes the most powerful figure in a story is not the conqueror. It is the one who made it to shore, not because they won, but because they endured. And endurance, when you look closely, is often made of gentle things: a hand held out, a lamp left burning, a place at the edge of the fire. In the ancient cities, the temple was not only a monument, it was also a storehouse, a meeting place, a way to keep grain safe through the lean seasons, a way to gather people under a shared roof of meaning. If newcomers arrived, needing stability, needing structure, needing a place to belong, the temple could be that, not as a weapon, as a shelter. And if the city needed guidance, rules about canals, agreements about trade, calendars for planting, those rules could become sacred, not because they were mystical, but because they helped life continue. Not because the world was perfect, but because the world was workable. Not because everyone agreed, but because everyone needed water. Not because the future was guaranteed, but because tomorrow still mattered. You may notice your mind trying to sharpen this into a debate. If so, let it soften again. Tonight is not for proving. Tonight is for resting inside possibility. Think of the tablets once more. Clay does not lie the way a voice can lie. Clay holds impressions. It holds the press of a reed. It holds the thumbprint of a maker. It holds the small tremor of a hand that might have been tired. And when you imagine those impressions, you are imagining something deeply human, someone sitting in lamplight deciding that the moment should not disappear. That is what writing is, a refusal to let life vanish completely. And you listening now are part of that same gentle refusal. You are here. You are breathing. You are allowing the past to touch you without hurting you. If sleep is already approaching, you can let your eyelids grow heavier. The story will keep a gentle watch. You do not have to hold it. You can simply drift now, tonight. In the next part of our story, we will walk a little deeper into the early city's memory. We will notice how myths and everyday life weave together, how a canal becomes a symbol, how a star becomes a guide, how a name becomes a home. For now, let the river keep moving. Let the lamp glow. Let the tablet dry quietly on its shelf, and let your body sink a little deeper into rest, knowing that sometimes the most beautiful truths arrive in silence, and stay in silence, and are kind enough not to demand anything from you at all. If you stay long enough in the land between two rivers, you begin to notice something quietly miraculous. The miracle is not a single monument, not a battle, not even a name carved into stone. The miracle is rhythm, water arriving at the right moment, seeds pressed into softened earth, a calendar of moons that returns and returns again, a lamp kept burning in a doorway until the last footsteps come home. And if your own life has felt out of rhythm lately, too fast, too jagged, too full of unfinished thoughts, this is a gentle place to borrow a steadier pace. Tonight, we are still walking beside the old stories, but we are also walking beside the ordinary work that made those stories possible. A myth can only be told in a city that survives the season. A city can only survive the season if someone, somewhere, remembers how to guide water through a canal. So let the scene settle into something calm and close. Uruk, at late afternoon. The sun is low and the light is honeyed, soft on mud brick walls. Dust hangs in the air like a thin veil, turning everything slightly dreamlike. In the distance, the temple mound rises in layered steps, not sharp, but steady, a shape made by countless hands adding what they could, year after year. On the streets there is movement, but it is unhurried. A donkey passes with baskets on its sides. A woman stands in a doorway shaking out a woven cloth. A child runs, then slows, then runs again, laughter fluttering like a small bird. Near the edge of the city, the canal glimmers. It is not wide, but it is faithful. It carries water from the river in a slow, deliberate stream, like a promise that does not need to be spoken aloud. You can kneel beside it in your imagination, close enough to see the surface shiver. The water smells faintly of earth and reeds. A tiny insect lands and lifts again. The current continues, patient and steady, and somewhere nearby a gate is opened with care, a wooden barrier lifted just enough to let the water pass. This is the sound of civilization if you listen gently, not shouting but flowing, not conquest but coordination, not drama but 1,000 quiet agreements kept day after day. It is easy to forget when we picture the ancient world, how much of it was made of listening to the river, to the wind, to the soil, to the body's need for rest. A city like Uruk is not only walls and temples, it is also a shared breath. Now very softly, allow the story's travelers to remain in the background, present but not towering. We do not need them to be frightening or even certain. We only need them to be part of the atmosphere, like a new star that has appeared in the sky and made people look up a little longer than usual. Because if newcomers arrived, whether from far away or from above, however the story chose to say it, the first thing they would need is not worship. They would need water, they would need food, they would need a place to sit down and stop shaking. And the first thing the city would need, in return, is not surrender. It would need understanding, it would need trust, measured out slowly the way grain is measured, careful, practical, real. So the old myths, when you read them as softly as a bedtime story, begin to feel less like thunder and more like conversation. A council at dusk, perhaps in a courtyard, where the air is cooler. Lamps are placed along the wall, their flames flickering. The adults speak in low voices. The children listen from the edge, half awake, half dreaming, absorbing the feeling more than the words. In their voices, a single question rises softly. What do you need to stay alive? No one speaks quickly. The lamp listens. The answers in myth become grand. They become titles. They become decrees. But under the grandness, there may be something simpler. We are trying to find a place to stand. We have brought what we know. We have lost what we had. We would like to belong quietly. And if you hear that, even faintly, it changes the mood of the story, because you too know what it is to arrive home after a long day and want only one thing: a soft place, a dim room, a moment where you do not have to prove anything. Now, as the evenings pass in Uruk, you begin to see how order takes shape. Not harsh order, a softer order, the kind that makes life easier to carry. The market has its rhythm, the canal gates have their schedule, the fields beyond the city are watered in turn, the scribes' tablets stack up on shelves, drying in rows. Some tablets are tall and narrow, some are small, some are rough with fingerprints. Each one is a small attempt to keep the world from slipping through the hands. Fingerprints in clay, a thumb pressed into damp earth, a mark that says, "I was here." When you imagine those fingerprints, you can imagine your own day's worries as something physical, something that could be placed down, not erased, not denied, simply set aside. If you can, set them down a little. The phone, the to-do list, the conversation you keep replaying. Now let the camera of the story lift toward the sky. Night has arrived. The city dims into scattered lamps and hearth glow. The temple mound becomes a darker silhouette against the stars. the canal becomes a ribbon of black glass reflecting small points of light like tiny, floating seeds. And above it all, the sky opens. A sky so wide it makes your thoughts feel smaller. A sky so steady it helps your nervous system remember you can relax. The people of these cities looked up as often as you do. They searched for meaning in the stars. They used the stars as clocks, the moon as a calendar. They listened to the wind for the next change in weather. In time, those observations became stories. Not because the sky demanded stories, but because the human mind loves a gentle frame. A way to feel less lost under something so immense. So the names of gods were also names for patterns: water, wind, morning, harvest, law. A myth was a lantern set carefully in the darkness of the unknown. And here, quietly, another soft discovery begins to form. If the travelers were real people, or if they were a memory of people, then calling them gods may have been less about worship and more about scale. When someone arrives with new ways of measuring time, organizing labor, storing grain, it can feel like a gift from above, not because it is supernatural, but because it arrives at the edge of need. But gifts are rarely one-sided. The locals already knew the river, they already knew the soil, they already knew the taste of this place. If the newcomers brought something, they also learned something. They learned the smell of rain in this land. They learned the reeds' soft language. They learned the long patience required to live beside water that can bless and wander. Perhaps that is why the old texts sometimes feel layered, as if more than one voice is speaking through them. One voice remembers before, one voice remembers after, one voice speaks of the world as if it began with the arrival. Another voice quietly hints, we were already here. The people were already here. Before any creation story was told, there were already footsteps in the mud, already bread baking, already children falling asleep beside their mothers. So, creation, in myth, might not mean the literal beginning of humans. It might mean the beginning of a certain order. The beginning of a city's story as it wished to remember itself. When you think of it that way, myth becomes less like a claim and more like a comfort. A community saying softly, "This is how we became who we are." Now let the scene return to the scribe. It is late. The lamp is low. The air has cooled, and the city outside is mostly asleep. The scribe's face is calm, even a little distant, as if they are writing with one foot in the waking world and one foot in the dream. The reed stylus presses the clay, leaving lines that will outlast the lamp, outlast the city's walls, outlast the scribe's own name. And the scribe pauses. They look at the tablet as if listening for what it wants to become. In that pause, you can hear the museum's silence again, the silence that is not emptiness but rest. Silence in ancient texts. It is there in broken corners. It is there in the gaps between myths. It is there in the unsaid tenderness of ordinary nights. And if you let that silence enter you now, it may touch the part of you that has been working too hard. Not because it fixes anything, because it reminds you, you do not have to hold everything at once. The scribe writes one more line, something about those who came, those who settled, those who joined the city's life. The words are formal, but the feeling behind them is quiet. The world has changed, and life has continued anyway. Change can be survived, loss can be carried. Arrival can be enough. In the next part, we will follow the story into a deeper corridor, the corridor where legends begin to wrap themselves around real grief, and where the idea of refuge becomes not an accusation, but a soft lantern of compassion. For now, let the canal keep moving, let the stars remain distant, let the temple's silhouette stand like a calm thought against the night, and let your body, here in the present, sink another small inch towards sleep. Let your eyelids grow heavy, slowly, in time, because you are safe, and because the night, long and quiet, is willing to carry you the rest of the way. There are nights when even a beautiful story feels too bright, nights when your mind asks for something softer than answers, softer than explanations, softer even than hope. On those nights, what helps most is not a conclusion. It is companionship, something that does not hurry you and does not require you to be anyone but tired. So tonight, as we step deeper into the old world, we will carry one simple kindness with us. We will not demand certainty from the past. We will let it be what it often is, an echo, a footprint, a half-remembered dream that knows how to soothe. The city is asleep. Uruk has folded itself into darkness. The lanes are quiet, the doorways covered with reed mats, the lamps dimmed to small, steady embers. Even the dogs that sometimes wander at night have curled into stillness. The sky above feels wide enough to hold every thought you have been carrying. Near the temple mound, a courtyard keeps a faint glow, not because something urgent is happening, but because someone has chosen to keep the flame alive. A lamp, sheltered from the wind, casts a soft circle of light on packed earth. The light does not reach far, and that is part of its comfort, a small world of warmth inside a larger world of quiet. If you imagine stepping into that circle, you might feel your shoulders ease again. In the quiet hours between sleep and waking, your body remembers how to settle when the room is safe. Inside a nearby room, shelves line the walls. On them rest tablets, some large, some small. Each one a small piece of time made solid. A tablet is not dramatic. It simply waits, and yet, if you have ever found an old photograph in a drawer, one you forgot you had, then you understand the feeling a tablet can carry. The feeling of reaching across years, touching a moment that is no longer here, and realizing it was real. Tonight we touch the past the same way, gently without gripping, letting it be near without forcing it to speak too loudly. On one shelf, a tablet is cracked through the middle. The writing stops abruptly where the clay broke. There is a silence there, and the silence is kind. It asks your mind to release its tightness. It tells you softly that incompleteness is not danger. It is simply the shape of time. Silence in ancient texts. Silence where the scribe paused. Silence where a word was lost and life continued anyway. If your thoughts want to fill every gap with worry, you can practice a different habit here. You can let a gap remain a gap. You can rest inside the not knowing, as if it were a pillow that does not require you to turn it over until it is perfect. Now, as the lamp flickers, the story reveals its softer center. If you like, imagine your own worries as small stones in your pockets. You do not have to throw them away. You can simply set them down one by one beside the clay. A stone for the thing you said and wish you hadn't. A stone for the thing you didn't say and still carry. A stone for the bills, the calendar, the unfinished decisions. The tablet does not judge the stones. It only shares its calm weight, reminding you that time can hold things without squeezing them. In the corner of the room, you can almost hear the quiet work of a scribe in another night, another year. Tap, press, lift, tap, press, lift. Each sound is small enough to be soothing, like distant rain on a roof. And between those taps there is space, breathing space, where nothing is required of you. If your mind wanders, let it wander. If sleep comes early, let it come. The story will remain here like a lamp left on low, keeping gentle company until you don't need company anymore. Even the missing corners feel like permission, saying, you can be incomplete tonight and still be worthy of rest too, not with a shock, not with an argument, with a feeling, Some gods in these myths are described in ways that resemble weariness more than glory. They speak of labor, of burden, of responsibilities that sound heavy. They move through the world as if they are carrying something invisible on their backs, and that is where the gentle turning point lives. Not in proving who they were, but in noticing what the story protects. People do not always tell the past exactly as it happened. They tell it the way they can bear it. They tell it in shapes that make grief survivable. A myth can be a shelter. It can take a raw memory and wrap it in meaning, so it does not cut the hands that carry it. So imagine, far behind the cities and the rivers, a place that is no longer safe to stay. Not a place of monsters, only a place of narrowing. We do not need sharp details, we only need soft weather, a long season, a dimming, a heaviness in the air. And then the decision to leave. A leaving that does not feel like triumph. A leaving that feels like necessity. They carry the weight of what they have lost. Now the scene drifts, slow as a tide, to the riverbank before dawn. The water is dark and the stars are still reflected in it, trembling slightly as the current moves. The reeds stand like quiet listeners. A faint mist hovers low, thin enough that you can still see through it, like a veil that calms rather than hides. On the bank there are footprints, not fresh, not dramatic, simply marks in damp earth, the kind that will disappear by midday. Someone walked here. Someone stood here. Someone paused long enough for the mud to remember the shape of their weight. Footsteps are proof without a speech, presence without a name. And perhaps in the deepest layer of these myths, what people remembered was not the thunder of gods, but the fact that someone arrived. Someone came to the river and did not know where they would sleep. Someone looked at the city's lamps and felt the ache of wanting to belong. Arrival is not the same as triumph. Sometimes arrival is just the moment your body realizes it can stop moving for a while. Now we step gently into the temple's storehouse. Not the sacred interior you might imagine from movies, but a practical room with thick walls that keep the heat out and the grains safe. Large jars line the floor, baskets are stacked carefully. The air smells of dry barley and clay. In a corner, a lamp burns with a steady flame, and the light makes the jars look like sleeping shapes. This is where myth and daily life meet, because a temple is a place of stories, yes, but it is also a place of continuity. When the river is kind, the storehouse fills. When the river is unpredictable, the storehouse is what keeps children fed. In this way, the sacred is not separate from survival. The sacred is survival made meaningful. So if newcomers arrived with hunger in their eyes, the offering could be literal, a portion of grain, a cup of water, a space to rest near the wall where the air is cooler. Mercy is not always announced. Sometimes it is quiet logistics carried out by tired hands. In this room, someone speaks softly, no sermon, no proclamation. A low exchange that sounds like care. How many mouths? How many days? What can we spare? These are not divine questions, they are human questions, and in answering them, a city becomes a home. On another shelf, a different tablet waits, smoother from handling. The writing is more careful, as if someone tried to make the world orderly with marks. It is building a bridge from confusion to shape, from fear to meaning, from loss to something carryable. And here, very softly, we reach the sentence we have been approaching all night. They were not gods, and they were refugees, not as a slogan, not as a weapon, as a whisper, as a possibility that warms the room rather than sharpening it. When you hold that possibility, the tone changes. The decrees become agreements. The gifts become skills brought from far away, offered and adapted, woven into local knowledge like a new thread in an old cloth. And the people who are already here remain present too, farmers, potters, boatmen, mothers, children, living their lives beside the river, teaching newcomers the taste of this land, the smell of the wind before rain, the way the water rises and falls. Creation, in this bedtime reading, is not the beginning of humanity. It is the beginning of relationship. Strangers becoming neighbors over time, not through drama, but through repetition, through bread shared, water poured, doors opened, names learned. If your eyelids are heavy now, let them be heavy. If your mind drifts, let it drift. You do not have to hold every sentence. You can take what comforts you and let the rest fade like mist over the river. Outside the temple, the sky begins to pale. Dawn spreads slowly, barely a color at first, more like a change in softness. The stars do not vanish suddenly. They dim the way worries dim when you finally exhale. The city will wake again soon. The canal gates will open, the scribe will press fresh clay, life will continue in its quiet rhythm. And you, here in the present, can continue too, without forcing, without rushing. In the next part, we will follow the story into an even calmer chamber, the chamber of remembrance, where old flood stories are not alarms but slow waves of time, where silence becomes a teacher, where the night is long and the stars are distant, and you are allowed to be small and safe. For now, let the lamp burn low, let the tablet rest, let the river keep moving, and let your breathing, steady and warm, carry you closer to sleep. Some stories arrive in the human world the way weather arrives, not with a single loud moment, but with a gradual change in the air. A softness shifting, a pattern repeating, a season stretching longer than expected. And when a season stretches, people do what people have always done. They talk about it, they sing about it, they tell it to their children at night, so the shape of uncertainty feels less sharp. This is one of the quiet roots of the ancient flood stories. If you have heard them before, you may remember them as dramatic, roaring waters, sudden endings, frantic warnings. But tonight, we will let the water move like water truly moves in the long memory of a river valley, slowly, patiently, in waves that come and go, leaving silt behind like a signature. We are still in the land between two rivers, where canals shine under moonlight and lamps glow behind reed curtains. We are still walking through a museum of time, where clay tablets keep the past in their calm hands. And you are still here, in the present, listening from whatever room you are in, letting your body sink deeper into rest. So let the story soften further. Imagine the river in late summer. The sun has been strong for many days, and the air holds a dry warmth even after dusk. The water level is lower, and the banks show more of their dark, fertile skin. Birds gather near the shallows. Fishermen stand quietly with nets. Children chase one another along the edge and stop to watch the ripples widen when a stone is tossed. Then weeks later, imagine the same river in a different mood. Clouds build on the horizon. The wind changes direction. The air smells of distant rain. The water rises, not in a rush, but in a steady insistence. It takes up more space the way a deep breath takes up space in your lungs. It presses into the reeds. It fills the canals a little faster than usual. It lays down a new sheen of wetness on the banks. The river does not mean harm. It only follows its own nature. But for people living close to it, the river's nature can feel like a conversation that must be answered carefully. So they watch. They measure. They make small decisions with big consequences. How high to build a wall, when to open a gate, where to store grain, whom to warn, which paths to take if the water comes farther than expected. And because these decisions live in the body, because they are felt first as tension and then as relief, they become stories. Now imagine an old evening in Uruk. The lamps are lit, the city is quieting. A family sits close together on a roof where the air is cooler. The sky above is full of stars and the river below is a dark ribbon reflecting them. Someone begins to speak, not as a teacher but as a comfort. They speak of a time when water came in a way that surprised people. Not a punishment, not a battle, but a moment when the familiar boundary between river and street blurred. They speak of boats tied higher, of doorways watched, of neighbors calling softly to each other across the dark. They speak of it the way you might speak of a storm you once lived through, with humility, with gratitude, with a kind of reverence for forces larger than any single plan. And because the ancient mind loved meaning the way the modern mind loves meaning, the story gains a sacred frame. A warning becomes a dream. A wise planner becomes a chosen one. A boat becomes an ark or a great vessel or simply a careful answer to a changing season. But underneath the sacred frame, the texture remains human, people trying to keep life continuous. If you listen closely, you can feel the softness in the myth's purpose. It is not to terrify, it is to reassure. It says, this happened and we survived. It says the world can change and still you can find a way through. It says build gently, plan quietly, stay close to those you love. And perhaps in the deeper layer, the layer where we have been walking all night, these flood stories also hold another tenderness, because if the Anunnaki, or the arrivals, were remembered as refugees, then water becomes more than weather. Water becomes a symbol of displacement, of leaving, of being carried. Sometimes the river carries silt. Sometimes it carries a boat. Sometimes it carries a story from one shore to another. Not because the story must prove something, but because the story knows how to hold the feeling of being moved by forces you did not fully choose. If that feeling sounds familiar, you are not alone. Many modern lives feel like river lives, busy currents, unexpected rises, long seasons where you must keep moving even when you are tired. So tonight, let the ancient river lend you its patience. In and out. Let your breath rise the way the water rises, slowly, steadily. Let your breath fall the way the water falls, quietly, without drama. Now in the temple storehouse, there is a tablet that mentions the great waters. The phrase is simple, almost plain. No special effects, no shouting. Just two words pressed into clay, as if someone wanted to remember the weight of that season without reliving it. And beside the phrase there is again silence. A chip in the tablet's corner, a missing line, a gap where the mind can rest. Silence in ancient texts is not only absence, it is also mercy. Sometimes if you imagine your fingers touching the clay through the glass, you can feel the cool steadiness of it. Clay remembers without rushing. It keeps the pressure of a thumb, the tremble of a hand, the patience of someone waiting for the right moment to speak. And because it remembers so calmly, it invites you to remember calmly too. Not in a sharp way that reopens old rooms, but in a warm way that lets the door stay half closed. A memory can be a lantern, not a spotlight. It can glow softly beside your bed, then fade as you drift into quieter, kinder sleep. Because mercy looks like this. You are not required to carry the whole thing at once. Now imagine a scribe copying an older story. Their lamp is low, the room is cool. Outside, the canal makes its gentle sound. The scribe's stylus moves in small, careful wedges and the rhythm is calming. Tap, press, lift. Tap, press, lift. In that rhythm, the past becomes less like an argument and more like a lullaby. The scribe writes about a council of powers, gods or leaders, or simply the way people remember leadership. The scribe writes about decisions made in quiet rooms. The scribe writes about a warning that arrives softly like intuition. The scribe writes about a vessel built not in panic, but in patience. And then the scribe pauses. Maybe their hand cramps. Maybe the lamp needs oil. Maybe they simply feel the weight of the story and look up at the dark ceiling for a moment. In that pause, you can feel the soft truth we have been circling. Arrival is not the same as triumph. Survival is not the same as dominance. Power is not always loud. Sometimes power is the ability to keep a lamp burning through the night. Sometimes power is the ability to share grain when you could have hoarded it. Sometimes power is the ability to say gently, "Come in, rest here, you are safe enough." Not because the world is perfect, but because a small kindness can make the world bearable. Now the scene shifts, like a slow dissolve in a film. We are back at the riverbank, but it is earlier, before the cities grew certain of themselves, before walls became thicker, before names became carved into memory. The bank is soft underfoot. The reeds move. The air smells of wet earth. And in the distance, a small group stands near the water, watching the city's lamps. They do not look like conquering heroes. They look like people who have traveled. They carry bundles. They keep close to one another. They wait. The city does not rush out to meet them. The city watches too, cautious but curious, as if feeling the size of the moment. Between them is the river, dark, patient, reflecting the stars. And in that reflection, the old myth begins to change shape again. When later generations told the story, they might have said the newcomers came down from above. They might have said they arrived with shining authority. They might have named them among the Anunnaki. But if you listen with your gentlest ear, you can also hear something else, a shared human recognition across the water. We see you. We know what it is to be tired. We know what it is to want a place to belong. So a lamp is lifted on the bank. A small flame, not a beacon, not a signal of conquest, just a light saying the shore is here. A boat is pushed out, its reeds creaking softly. The oar dips, the water parts, and as the boat glides across the dark river, everything slows. The world becomes a little quieter. Even the stars seem to hold still. If you are close to sleep now, you can let your mind drift with the boat. You do not have to watch every detail. You can simply feel the motion. Forward, slow, steady. In the next part of our story, we will step into the soft heart of the myth, the place where the great waters become a metaphor for change, and where the old names become less like rulers and more like mirrors, reflecting the parts of ourselves that long for safety. For now, let the boat reach the shore, let the lamp glow, let the river keep moving. The night is long and the stars are distant, and you here are allowed to rest. The boat reaches the shore so quietly you almost don't hear it. Reeds brush water, an oar lifts and rests. The river, patient as always, closes behind the hull without a splash that would wake the city. The lamp on the bank bends its flame in the breeze, then steadies again, as if it, too, is practicing calm. For a moment, there is only looking, a small group on one side of the water, a few figures on the other, shadows made gentle by distance. No shouting, no sudden movement, only the kind of stillness that happens when both sides understand that fear and kindness often stand close together. If you are listening with heavy eyelids, let this scene be soft focus, like a dream half remembered. You don't need to see every face. You don't need to count how many people stand there. You only need to feel the atmosphere, the hush of a new beginning, held carefully so it does not break. A hand lifts, palm open, not a command, an offering of peace. In the quiet hours between sleep and waking, gestures speak more kindly than words. And in an ancient river city, gestures mattered too. A bowl of water set down, a piece of bread offered, a place near the wall where the night air is cooler. Arrival is not the same as triumph. Sometimes arrival is simply the first safe breath after a long time of holding one's chest tight. The newcomers step onto the bank. Their feet press into damp earth, leaving footprints that will be gone by noon. The city's soil accepts them without question. Mud does not ask where you came from, it only records that you were here. Fingerprints in clay, footprints at the river. These are the proofs the ancient world leaves us, small, humble, and strangely comforting. Now let the scene drift inward, as if you are walking through a doorway made of reed mats. The city is still mostly asleep, but a few lamps remain. You can hear the low rustle of someone shifting on a rooftop. You can smell smoke from a fire that has burned down to coals. The air tastes faintly of river water and dust. Inside a courtyard, someone sets down a jar. Someone else brings a blanket woven from rough fibers, soft with use. There is no ceremony. There is only the practical tenderness of making room. And this, too, becomes part of the story, because when later generations remembered nights like these, they would not always describe them as they happened. They would describe them the way they felt. They would describe the heaviness of change, the relief of shelter, the strange brightness of new skills and new rules arriving in a fragile place. And over time, the newcomers would gain names that sounded like the sky. Not because the sky demanded it, because the human heart needed language large enough to hold the feeling. Anu, Enlil, Enki, Anunnaki. Tonight, let those names be lanterns, not lightning. A lantern does not erase the darkness. It simply makes the darkness safe enough to sit inside. It gives you a small circle of sight, a small circle of warmth, and permission to stop scanning the horizon for danger. In the Museum of Time, you might walk again into a gallery of tablets. The glass cases are cool, the labels are quiet. The clay holds its patient color, brown, grey, the shade of riverbanks after rain. Some tablets are complete. Some are chipped. Some are broken into pieces that fit together like gentle puzzles, and between the lines, there is still silence. Silence in ancient texts is not only what we have lost, it is also what the ancient writers chose not to say. Sometimes they did not say it because everyone already knew. Sometimes they did not say it because it was too tender. Sometimes they did not say it because leaving space is a kind of wisdom, a way to let the listener breathe. Before the next scene arrives, let yourself linger in that gallery. Notice how the lights are dimmed to protect the clay, how the air feels cooler near the glass, how even your pulse seems to slow. You can imagine placing a question into the silence the way a curator places a tablet onto velvet, carefully, without urgency, not because the question is unimportant, but because tonight you are allowed to pause. Let the unanswered parts stay unanswered. Let them become soft, like fog over the river, and feel how your mind relaxes when it doesn't have to grip. For a while, that is enough. So, let us breathe with them, in and out. Now, in a softer chamber of the museum, there are tablets that speak of me, not the word you use to point to yourself, but the ancient idea of me as sacred patterns, skills, responsibilities, customs, the invisible architecture of a society. The me could be the knowledge of how to build, how to measure, how to keep time, how to distribute grain, how to sing a hymn in the right season, how to sit in a council and let the loudest voice become quieter. If that sounds complex, let it remain simple tonight. Think of it as the gentle structure that helps people sleep, a city that knows when the gates open, a household that knows where the water jar belongs, a community that knows how to share the river without tearing itself apart. Order, in its kindest form, is not control. It is relief. And when a culture remembers the arrival of new order, it might describe it as something descending from the heavens. Not because it was supernatural, but because it felt like help arriving when help was needed. Still, the soft truth remains. The people were already here. There were already hands shaping clay, already voices telling stories beside firelight, already children falling asleep to the sound of reeds in the wind. So the creation that myths describe may not be the beginning of life, but the beginning of a new arrangement, an agreement between strangers, a weaving of knowledge, a shared attempt to make tomorrow steadier than today. Not because anyone was perfect, but because everyone was tired. And tired people in every age build gentler worlds when they can. Now imagine a night lesson held quietly in a courtyard. A few elders speak while the younger ones listen. The lamps are low, the city's noise is minimal. Someone points to the sky and names the stars that help mark the season. Someone points to the river and explains how to read its level by the dark line on a stone. Someone lifts a clay tablet and shows the wedge marks: tap, press, lift. A child copies the motion with a reed, clumsy at first, then steadier. There is no scolding, only patience. In that patience, civilization is born again, not as conquest, but as learning. If you have been hard on yourself lately, if you have felt like you must get everything right, let this scene soften you. Ancient hands did not become skilled overnight. They learned by repeating small motions in lamplight, by failing gently, by trying again, not because they were extraordinary, because they were human. And here, very quietly, another soft discovery unfolds. If the gods of a story can be reread as travelers, then perhaps the decrees of the gods can be reread as the slow work of making a home. Not a home of walls, but a home of rhythm. A rhythm of water, a rhythm of harvest, a rhythm of rest, a rhythm that lets the nervous system settle. Notice how often your own body calms when life becomes rhythmic. A familiar song, a repeated route, a nightly ritual of turning down lights. These are your modern me, your gentle patterns that hold you when the day has been sharp. So the ancient story, when listened to like a bedtime tale, becomes a mirror. It reflects a truth you already know. The most powerful thing is often not a dramatic event, but a dependable routine that keeps you safe. Not because it makes life exciting, but because it makes life bearable. And perhaps this is why the myth's central sentence feels so warm when spoken softly. They were not gods, they were refugees. It turns thunder into tenderness. It turns fear into understanding. It takes the sharp edge off the unknown and replaces it with something you can hold without cutting yourself. Now let the city drift toward dawn. The sky lightens in a slow gradient, from deep indigo to a softer grey-blue. The stars fade one by one, not in a rush, as if they are closing their eyes. Roosters begin to call, distant and calm. Somewhere, a door opens. Someone steps out with a jar to fetch water before the heat returns. The newcomers, if they are still here in your mind, are quieter now too. They have a place to sit. They have a bowl of water. They have the smallest beginning of belonging, a corner of shade, a shared fire, a name spoken without suspicion. And the city continues because that is what cities do. It continues with clay and canals, with lists and lullabies, with silence and speech. It continues with the gentle courage of ordinary people who wake up and try again. If sleep is close, let it come closer. You do not need to keep watch. the story will keep watch for you. In the next part, we will move even deeper into the hush of the tablets, the places where power becomes a shadow rather than a shout, where the most meaningful truths are the ones whispered, and where the night is long, the stars are distant, and you are allowed to be small. For now, let the lamp on the riverbank glow in your imagination. Let it be a soft lantern, not only for those ancient travelers, but for you. A light that says, you can rest here. A light that says arrival is enough. A light that says the world can be quiet again. There is a certain kind of power that does not shout. It does not crash through doors or announce itself with bright noise. It simply enters a room and changes the way everyone breathes. It becomes a shadow that lengthens across the floor, and suddenly people begin to speak more softly, not because they want to, but because they have learned the cost of speaking too loudly. If that idea feels heavy, let it soften here. Tonight, we are not building a lecture. We are building a resting place. We are listening the way you listen when your eyes are already tired, slowly, warmly, allowing the meaning to be more like a lullaby than a verdict. We are still in the land between two rivers. The canals still shine like dark ribbons under moonlight. The temple mound still stands like a steady thought against the sky. And you are still here, in the quiet hours between sleep and waking, where you do not need to solve the world. So let us enter a gentle room inside the ancient city. It is not a throne room, it is not a battlefield. It is a council chamber made practical by necessity, a shaded courtyard with a low wall, a few clay stools, a lamp set in the center so faces can be seen without being exposed. The air is cooler here, the night insects sing in the distance. Somewhere, water moves in a canal like a low, continuous whisper. A few people sit in a circle. Their shoulders are tired, their hands are calloused, their voices are careful. They speak about water. Who will open the gate first? Who must wait? Which fields are thirsty? Which paths will be muddy tomorrow? These are ordinary concerns, and that ordinariness is comforting. Because it reminds you, the ancient world was not built only by myths. It was built by quiet agreements, repeated again and again until a city could hold itself up. But in the same circle, another kind of conversation sometimes appears. A conversation about order, about who decides, about who records the decision, about whose name is pressed into clay and whose name stays in the air and vanishes by morning. You can feel, even without sharp words, that there is a delicate balance here. A city needs structure, yes. A city needs rhythm, but structure can be a shelter or a cage, depending on how it is held. So tonight we hold it gently, not because we want to accuse the past, but because we want to understand the softness of human longing, the longing for safety, the longing for stability, the longing to believe that the rules of life are natural and unchangeable. Because people are weak, but because people are tired. And tired people often accept the longest shadows, simply because the shadows promise relief. In the Museum of Time, you might imagine a tablet that looks unremarkable at first. It is not an epic. It is not a poem. It is a record, dry, precise, practical. It lists measures and dates. It names officials. It marks what was given, what was owed, what was decided. And yet if you sit with it long enough, you can feel something beneath the neat wedges, the quiet birth of authority. A stylus presses clay, a seal rolls across the surface, a thumbprint confirms, and suddenly what was once a spoken agreement becomes a permanent shape. The clay does not merely remember, it enforces. It says, this is the arrangement, this is the order, this is how things will be done. That can be soothing, because order reduces uncertainty. But it can also be heavy if the order forgets to remain human. So the ancient texts, when read softly, begin to show you two truths at once. The first truth is gentle. People were trying to survive together. The second truth is also gentle, but deeper. Power often grows in silence, not in spectacle. Silence in ancient texts is not only the gaps where time has broken the clay, it is also the spaces where a decision is recorded without the argument that led to it. It is the absence of the small voices, those who carried water, those who cooked, those who labored, whose names rarely make it into the permanent clay. And noticing that silence does not have to make you angry, it can make you tender. Because tenderness is a kind of wisdom too. Now let the scene return to the city at night. The streets are quiet. A few lamps glow in doorways like sleepy eyes. A dog shifts and sighs. A man on a rooftop turns over in his blanket. The stars above are distant and calm, and the air smells faintly of dust and cooling brick. In a small house near the canal, someone tells a story to a child. Not a story meant to frighten, a story meant to make the world feel orderly enough for sleep. They speak of the great ones, Anu, Enlil, Enki, and the Anunnaki, whose names sound like the sky. They speak of decrees and destinies, of the way the world was arranged. But listen for the soft purpose of the story. The purpose is not control. The purpose is comfort. It is the same purpose your mind seeks when it replays the day, trying to make sense of what happened. It wants a shape. It wants a reason. It wants to believe that chaos has a frame. So myths offer frames, not because they are perfect explanations, but because a frame can calm the heart. Not because the past is simple, but because the human mind needs a place to rest. And here, in this bedtime reading, the myth's soft twist returns again, like a warm scarf placed around the shoulders. They were not gods. They were refugees. If we hold that possibility, the story changes. The decrees become the language of survival. The great ones become leaders who were once lost and then found ashore. The sacred order becomes a way to keep the canal gates from becoming a fight every day. And the long shadow of power becomes a shadow cast by fear and relief, not by cruelty alone. Now, very gently, let us practice the sleepy rhythm of repetition, the kind that rocks you like water rocking a boat. They wanted water to arrive on time. They wanted grain to last through the season. They wanted the night to be quiet. They wanted the children to sleep without hunger. They wanted the sky to feel less vast. They wanted the future to feel a little more predictable. You may notice how your own heart recognizes these wants. You want them too in modern forms, a stable schedule, a safe home, a quiet inbox, a body that can relax. This is the bridge between you and them, not an argument, a shared longing. Now imagine a scribe again at the edge of sleep. The lamp is low, the room is cool, the clay is damp and ready. The scribe writes a line, pauses, writes another, pauses again. Each pause is a small mercy. It says, breathe. It says, you don't have to rush. It says, even the past needed breaks. Outside, the canal makes its gentle sound, and the city's distant quiet feels like a blanket. And here, in the pauses, something important becomes clear. Power is strongest when it convinces you it is natural, not because someone always plotted it, but because the human mind prefers the familiar, not because you are foolish, but because you are human. If that thought feels too awake, let it soften immediately into an image. Imagine power as a long shadow cast by a lamp. The lamp is small, the shadow is long. The lamp might be a rule, a title, a seal on a tablet, a story told to children. And the shadow stretches quietly across generations. But here is the comforting part. Shadows change when the light changes, and light changes naturally. The way dawn changes the sky, the way a lamp grows dim and is refilled, the way a new story becomes possible in a new season. You do not have to fight the shadow tonight. You only have to notice that you are safe beneath the sky and that your body is allowed to rest. Now, the museum returns one last time in this part. You walk down a corridor of glass cases. Your footsteps are soft. The lights are low to protect the clay. In one case, a tablet lies broken into pieces, fitted together like a quiet puzzle. In another, a seal impression shows a simple image, perhaps a figure, perhaps a boat, perhaps a star, pressed into clay long ago. And between these objects, the air is still, a dream half remembered. You stop in front of a tablet that is almost blank to the untrained eye. The marks are faint. The edges are worn. The words, if you could read them, might be ordinary, a list, a receipt, a date. But what you feel is extraordinary. The calm persistence of human effort. Someone tried to make life workable. Someone tried to make the river's gifts last. Someone tried to make a home. And in trying, they left you this quiet room of time where you can rest for a while. If you are close to sleep, let your eyes close more fully now. Let your breathing slow. Let the story become a soft background like distant water. If a worry floats up, treat it like a leaf. Notice it, bless it, and let it drift downstream, gently away tonight for you. In the next part, we will follow the trail of this quiet understanding into a gentler expansion toward the stars, toward the idea that myths are not cages, but lanterns, and that the best truths are the ones that arrive in silence and leave you kinder than before. For now, remain in these quiet hours between sleep and waking. The night is long, the stars are distant, and the world for a moment can be quiet again. There is a moment sometimes when a story stops being about back then and becomes about right now. It happens without fanfare. Only a soft shift in the way your chest feels, as if a knot you didn't know you were holding loosens one small strand. Tonight, we have been walking through clay and canal light, through names whispered in courtyards, through the hush that lives between broken lines. We have watched the river change its mood, and we have listened for meaning without forcing it. We have carried a single, gentle idea, warm in the hands, not heavy on the mind. Arrival is not the same as triumph. Now the story opens wider, like a night sky widening when the city finally goes quiet. The past does not become louder, it becomes larger, and in that largeness, something begins to heal. Imagine you are standing on the highest terrace of the Temple Mound, late at night, when even the workers have gone to sleep, when the lamps below are few, and the wind is soft. The brick beneath your feet still holds a trace of day's warmth. The air is cool against your skin. From here, you can see the dark weave of canals, the faint glimmer of river water, the scattered points of firelight where someone is awake, tending coals. Above you, the sky is wide enough to feel like an ocean turned upside down. The stars are not decorations, they are a presence. And if you have ever looked up at stars on a night when you felt tired of being responsible, tired of thinking, then you know how the stars can quiet the mind in the gentlest way. They do not solve your life. They simply remind you that life is bigger than the story your worry keeps repeating. Take one slow breath with the temple wind. Inhale as if you are drawing cool night air into the ribs, and exhale as if you are letting a long day pour out through your fingertips. If thoughts rise, let them rise like distant smoke over rooftops, seen, not chased, until they thin and disappear into the dark. You do not need to hold anything tonight. In the ancient world, people watched the sky with a kind of reverence. The moon marked months, certain stars hinted at seasons, but the sky was also a comfort. When the river felt unpredictable, the sky felt steady. When grief felt too personal, the stars made grief feel shared. So it makes sense that old stories lift their eyes upward when trying to speak about the unknown. If newcomers arrived from far away, if they arrived with different rhythms, different knowledge, different needs, how would the city describe them? One way is simple: strangers, travelers, refugees. Another way is mythic: those who came down, those who belonged to the Great Assembly, those whose names tasted like the sky. Both ways can coexist tonight because bedtime is not a courtroom. Bedtime is a soft room where more than one truth can sit together without arguing. So let the story expand gently. Picture the newcomers, however you imagine them, walking through the sleeping streets. Their steps are quiet. They do not disturb the night. They look at the canal water and the reed roofs, and something in their posture suggests not conquest, but relief. A place to rest, a place to try again. Some of them may carry tools. Some may carry tablets of their own. Some may carry nothing but the habit of surviving. And the city, in its own tired kindness, makes room. A corner of a courtyard, a share of grain, a lamp left burning. This is where the myth's softest beauty lives, not in spectacle, but in the human act of welcoming. Because welcoming is one of the oldest forms of wisdom. It is the choice to treat the unknown as a guest rather than a threat. It is the choice to build a bridge instead of a wall, even if the bridge is only a plank at first. Now, very softly, we arrive at the climax that does not raise your pulse. The climax is not a battle. It is an understanding. It is the realization that what we call gods in old stories might be, in part, the shapes we give to human experiences that feel too big. Migration, loss, survival, the longing for order, the ache of starting over. In other words, the myth becomes a mirror. It reflects the part of you that has ever felt displaced, not necessarily from a home, but from peace. Because modern life can displace you too. A long workday can displace you from your own breath. A constant stream of noise can displace you from calm. A single difficult conversation can displace you from the simple feeling of safety in your body. And if you have been displaced from calm, then tonight's story offers a gentle return, not by fixing the world, by reminding you that you can come back to yourself the way travelers come back to shore, slowly, quietly, one step at a time. They were not gods, they were refugees. And if that sentence is true in any way, even as a metaphor, then it carries a tender message. If even the great ones were once searching for refuge, then there is no shame in your own need for rest. If even the names we carved into legends were born from vulnerability, then vulnerability is not weakness. It is the beginning of connection. Now let the temple terrace become even quieter. The wind moves gently over the bricks. A faint scent rises, dust, warm clay, the distant sweetness of dates. The city below is almost entirely still. Even the river seems quieter at this hour, as if it too is listening. In this stillness, imagine a single clay tablet carried up to the terrace, not because it belongs there, but because someone wanted to read by starlight, away from the heat of rooms and the noise of daytime. The tablet is small, rough-edged, still bearing fingerprints from when it was shaped. The marks on it are practical, yet in the starlight they look beautiful. Tiny shadows pressed into earth. A scribe runs a thumb along the wedges, feeling their texture. The thumb pauses at a broken corner, a gap. Silence. Silence in ancient texts. And here, under the stars, you understand what that silence can be. Not a failure of record, but a mercy of mind. Because not every detail needs to be carried. Some things can be left unspoken. Some things can be allowed to fade. This is the soft discovery, the kind that helps you sleep. The past is not asking you to hold it perfectly. It is asking you to hold it kindly. So the scribe does something simple. They read the line they can read. They let the missing part remain missing. They breathe, and in that breathing they make peace with incompleteness. You can do the same right now without effort. If your mind is replaying something, let it become a tablet with a broken corner. Let the missing part stay missing. Let the silence be enough. Now the story turns outward again, toward the sky. The night is long, the stars are distant. The sky is the one roof everyone shares. The same stars shine on the weary and the steady, on the traveler and the one who never left home. Under that shared roof, stories become less divisive. They become communal. They become a way of saying, we are all here, together in the dark, trying to find a gentler way to live. And perhaps that is why the myth of arrival endures, because arrival is a universal feeling. You arrive at a new season. You arrive at a new job. You arrive at a new version of yourself. You arrive at night, finally, after the day has asked too much. And each time you hope for one thing, a welcome, even if it is only your own welcome to yourself. So imagine this as the soft expansion of the story. The Anunnaki in this bedtime reading are not a threat. They are a symbol of the parts of life that change us, parts that arrive unexpectedly, parts that teach us new rhythms, parts that remind us to build shelters of meaning. They are also a symbol of compassion, the recognition that behind every grand title there may be a tired heart. Now let the temple terrace fade gently into a scene by the river. It is late. The water reflects a thin crescent moon. A small boat is tied to a post, rocking almost imperceptibly. The reeds hiss softly as the wind passes through them. Somewhere, a frog makes a single sound, then stops. On the bank, a lamp glows. It is not a beacon for armies. It is a lantern for anyone who is returning. And in that lantern light you can see two sets of footprints in the damp earth, one set coming from the city, one set coming from the water. They meet, they pause. Then they turn together toward the quiet streets. This is the climax we have been moving toward, not a revelation that shocks, but a joining that soothes. A reminder that the gentlest power is companionship. A reminder that the kindest order is the order that makes room. A reminder that the most beautiful myths are the ones that turn fear into shelter. If your eyelids are heavy now, let them be heavy. Let the images blur into warmth. Let the river become a soft sound in the background of your mind. In the next part, we will begin to descend from the terrace and return to the simplest, calmest room of all, the room where the story becomes a lullaby again, where the tablet rests, where the world grows quiet, and where you are allowed to sleep without finishing every thought. For now, stay with the lantern on the riverbank. Stay with the stars above. Stay in these quiet hours between sleep and waking, where nothing demands, and everything that matters can arrive softly, like rest. In the deepest part of night, there is a soft turning. It is not the turning of a plot, not the turning of a debate, not the turning of a mind toward more effort. It is the turning that happens when the body finally believes it is safe enough to release what it has been holding all day. If you are still awake, you do not need to push yourself into sleep. You can simply let the story keep its slow pace beside you, like a companion walking at the edge of your vision, never hurrying you, never asking you to be anything but human and tired. Tonight, the river cities feel farther away, and yet closer too. The temple terrace fades, the council room fades, even the long corridor of glass cases in the museum fades into a softer, more private space. The small room inside you where memory rests, where the lights are low, where the mind is allowed to blur the edges of things. This is the quiet hours between sleep and waking. The gentle threshold where words become less important than tone, where meaning becomes less important than warmth. So let the images simplify. A lamp, a tablet, a river, a sky full of distant stars. That is enough. For tonight, nothing else needs to happen. Imagine the lamp first. It sits in a shallow clay bowl, a wick drinking oil, a flame leaning slightly in the night air. The flame is not tall, it does not try to be. It is content with being steady. It throws a small circle of amber light on the floor, and beyond that circle, the room returns to darkness, calm and unbothered. In that circle of light, a clay tablet lies on a folded cloth. The tablet is cool, heavier than it looks. Its surface holds the small wedges of writing like tiny shadows, and there are places where the wedges stop, where the clay broke, where time wore the edge down, where the sentence became silence. Silence in ancient texts. Tonight, let that silence become a teacher. Not a teacher that wakes you, but a teacher that softens you. Because silence reminds you, you do not have to fill everything. You do not have to explain everything. You do not have to make your life perfectly complete before you are allowed to rest. If you have been carrying unfinished things, you can imagine placing them beside the tablet. A message you didn't answer, a conversation you replayed, a worry that kept returning. Place each one down gently, as if it were a small pebble on the edge of the lamp's light. You are not throwing them away. You are simply setting them aside for the night. The tablet has held unfinished lines for thousands of years. It can hold yours for a few hours. Now imagine the river. It moves in the dark without needing to be watched. It flows whether anyone praises it or fears it. It carries silt. It carries moonlight. It carries the faint reflections of reeds that sway with every soft breath of wind. In the daytime, the river is useful. It is measured, divided, guided. Gates open and close. Canals fill and drain. People argue, sometimes, about whose field gets water first. But at night, the river belongs to stillness. At night, the river is only what it is, a long, steady sound that makes the mind quiet. If your mind is still restless, let it rest against the river sound. Let the current carry your thoughts the way it carries leaves, without drama, without judgment, onward and away. Now imagine the sky again. The night is long, the stars are distant. The stars do not fix anything, they do not answer the questions that keep you awake, and yet they soothe because they are faithful. They arrive every night, they hold their place.
They do not demand your attention, but they offer it a place to settle. Under that sky, the ancient story becomes simpler too. The Anunnaki, the great names, the arrival. It becomes less about what is literally true and more about what is emotionally true. That people in every age tell stories to make the unknown feel safe enough to sleep beside. And the soft twist we carried all night becomes even softer now, almost like a lullaby line you don't have to think about. They were not gods, they were refugees. If that sentence comforts you, let it comfort you. If it feels like a metaphor, let it be a metaphor. Either way, it asks for tenderness. It asks you to remember that behind every grand title, there may be someone who once needed a shore. And if someone once needed a shore, then it is gentle to offer them one in story in memory,
in imagination. Now we return to the riverbank, the place where the lamp glowed, but we return to it differently than before. We are not arriving as investigators, we are arriving as sleepers. The riverbank is cool and damp. The mud holds prints, the reeds whisper. The air smells of water and earth, clean and old. On the bank, the lamp still burns. The flame is smaller now because the oil is lower. It does not fight to stay tall. It simply keeps glowing patiently until it can rest. Nearby, a boat is tied to a post. The boat rocks almost imperceptibly. The rope creaks once, then goes quiet. The water makes a tiny sound as it touches the reeds. A person sits on the bank wrapped in a simple cloth. Maybe it is a traveler. Maybe it is a local. Maybe it is only you in the shape of a story, sitting where the river can breathe for both of you. The person watches the water for a long time. Not because they are searching for an answer, because watching the water is how the body remembers it can slow down. In that watching, a thought appears, quiet and kind. Not because arrival is triumphant, but because arrival is enough. There is no need to be perfect to be safe. There is no need to finish every task to be allowed to rest. There is no need to win today, to be worthy of peace tonight. If you can, let those lines sink in like warm air, sinking into a blanket. Not because they are instructions, because they are permission. And perhaps you can feel behind all these images a thread of gratitude. Gratitude for the hands that cut reeds and built canals so water could reach the fields. Gratitude for the hands that shaped clay so words could remain when voices were gone. Gratitude for the hands that lifted a lamp at the riverbank, saying, without many words, you may come closer. Those hands were ordinary, tired muscles, small hopes, the wish to make tomorrow possible. And because they were ordinary, they belong to you too. Your own days are built the same way, by hands doing what they can again and again, even when the mind is noisy. If today felt like too much, offer yourself the same kindness you would offer a traveler, a place to sit down, water, a moment without questions. The ancient world was full of small mercies, a jar sealed so grain would not spoil, a roof repaired before rain, a neighbour's quiet greeting, a song hummed while bread warmed on stone. None of these solved everything.
and yet they made life livable. You can carry that lesson into your own night, not by fixing your whole life right now, but by softening your grip on it. Let tomorrow be tomorrow. Let unfinished things wait behind a closed door until morning. And if guilt tries to wake you, whispering that you should have done more, imagine placing that guilt beside the tablet too. Let it become just another mark in clay, something that can exist without ruling you. The old tablets survived because they were allowed to dry slowly, protected from harsh sun and sudden rain. Your nervous system is like that clay. It also needs slow drying. It needs darkness. It needs patience. So take your time now. Let your forehead smooth, your jaw soften, your eyes grow heavier. You are allowed to pause here, in the quiet hours between sleep and waking.
Now the story begins to fold itself inward, like a bird tucking its head beneath its wing. The city behind the riverbank is quiet. The lamps are fewer. The temple mound is a dark shape, steady and still. Somewhere far away, a dog sighs and settles deeper into sleep. The Museum of Time closes its doors without a sound. The glass cases dim. The labels fade. The tablets rest. And you, here, can rest too. You do not have to hold the whole world. You can hold only this moment, the weight of your blanket, the softness beneath your head, the slow rise and fall of your breathing, in and out. The river in, the river out, a long, calm rhythm. If a thought returns, greet it gently, as if it were a traveler at the edge of your door. You do not need to invite it into a conversation. You can simply nod and let it pass by, and return your attention to the lamp's small circle of light. In that light, imagine one last image: a clay tablet resting on velvet, a thumbprint pressed into its corner, a line of writing fading into a broken edge, a silence that feels like mercy, silence in ancient texts, silence in your room, silence inside your chest as it loosens. And as the silence deepens, the story becomes quieter and quieter until it is almost only breath. The night is long, the stars are distant, the world grows quiet again, and if you fall asleep now, the story will continue without you needing to carry it. It will drift into your dreams like river mist, soft and harmless. It will leave you with a single, gentle truth, warm as a lamp in the dark. You are safe enough to rest. And now we come to the edge of the story. Not an edge like a cliff, but an edge like a shoreline at night, where the water meets the sand, where the waves arrive and leave, where nothing is forced to stay longer than it needs to. If you are already drifting, you can drift. If you are still awake, you can simply rest in the slow sound of these last lines, letting them pass through you the way warm air passes through an open window. Return for a moment to the Museum of Time. It is late. The building is closed. The hallways are dark, but not frightening. Dark in the way a library is dark when it trusts you to be quiet. Emergency lights glow faintly, small green dots that do not demand attention. Behind glass, the tablets sleep. One tablet, chipped at the corner, holds a sentence that fades into silence. It is a familiar kind of silence now. You have walked beside it for hours.
You have let it teach you a gentle truth. There are gaps in every story, and those gaps can be kind. They can be breathing room. They can be permission. Silence in ancient texts. Silence in your room. Silence in your body, returning slowly like a calm tide. In the dim gallery, it almost feels as if the past is breathing with you. Not in a dramatic way, in a steady way. A quiet companionship between your tired mind and the patient clay. Somewhere outside the museum, far beyond the glass and stone, the rivers still move. The Tigris and the Euphrates do not need an audience. They continue as they always have, carrying silt, carrying moonlight, carrying the soft reflections of reeds that bend and rise again. And on a riverbank that belongs to memory and myth at once, the lamp still glows, smaller now, softer.
A flame that understands how to become gentle. If you bring your attention to that lamp, you may notice something. It is not only a light for the travelers in the story. It is also a light for you. A small, steady signal that says you have made it through the day. A signal that says you can set down the weight of your thoughts for a while. Because the truth is, you have been traveling too. You have traveled through meetings and messages, through responsibilities and small pressures, through the invisible labor of being yourself in a busy world. Even if you never left your city, even if you never crossed a river, your mind has crossed many distances. So it makes sense that you are tired, and it makes sense that you have come here to the quiet hours between sleep and waking, to a story that does not demand a verdict. Tonight,
you do not have to be certain. Tonight, you do not have to win. Tonight, you do not have to carry everything to the end. Arrival is not the same as triumph. Sometimes arrival is simply the moment you exhale and realize there is a pillow beneath your head. Sometimes arrival is the moment your shoulders soften without you telling them to. Sometimes arrival is the moment your mind stops scanning the horizon. In the ancient story, The newcomers reached the shore and found a lamp. In your story, you have reached this moment and found something similar. A small pool of calm, lit gently, where you can rest. They were not gods, they were refugees. Let that line remain the way it is most helpful, as tenderness. As a reminder that behind every name, every title, every grand story, there may be a tired being who once needed safety.
And if that is true, then needing safety is not something to hide. It is something to honor. Now let the final images arrive one by one like slow waves. A boat tied to a post, rocking almost imperceptibly. A rope that creaks once, then becomes still. Reeds whispering. Water touching the bank with tiny, patient sounds. A clay tablet resting on velvet, its wedges softened by time, its broken edge turned into mercy. A sky above, wide and unhurried. The night is long, the stars are distant. In that wide darkness, nothing is chasing you. Nothing is demanding that you make sense of everything right now. The stars do not test you. The river does not argue with you. The lamp does not ask you to be brighter than you are. It only glows. And so you can glow too, in your own quiet way, by breathing, by existing, by letting your heart slow down. If a thought comes, let it come like a visitor at the edge of the fire. Notice it. Let it warm its hands for a moment, and let it leave again without needing to stay. If a memory comes, let it come like a page in a book you do not have to finish tonight. If a worry comes, let it come like a cloud in a vast sky, moving, thinning, changing. You are allowed to be spacious. You are allowed to be unfinished. You are allowed to sleep. In the museum, the tablets will remain. In the river valley, the water will continue. In your life, tomorrow will arrive when it arrives. But tonight is for lowering the volume. Tonight is for letting the body remember its oldest skill, resting. Let your forehead smooth. Let your tongue rest softly in your mouth. Let your eyes grow heavier, or if they are already closed, let them remain closed without effort. And as the story quiets further, imagine the final scene as if it were filmed in the slowest, gentlest way. The camera pulls back from the lamp on the riverbank. The circle of light becomes smaller. The boat becomes a darker shape. The reeds become a soft texture. The water becomes a low shimmer. The city behind fades into silence. The temple mound becomes a calm silhouette. The sky grows wider and wider until the stars are scattered like faint seeds across a deep, velvety night. Somewhere in that wide sky, there is room for everything you have carried, and room, too, for letting go. You do not have to solve the past. You do not have to solve yourself. You only have to let the night hold you the way the river holds moonlight, gently, without gripping. And if you fall asleep now, that is perfect. The story will not be offended. It will simply become part of the soft background of your dream, like distant water, like wind through reeds, like a lamp in a far window. There is something else the old river cities can offer you just before we say good night. They can offer you the comfort of continuity. Because when you imagine a scribe pressing wedges into clay, you are imagining a person who lived through ordinary days, days with tired legs and full hands, days with small joys and quiet disappointments. That person also had evenings when the lamp oil ran low, when the wind made the doorway flap, when a thought returned again and again like a persistent insect. And still, they sat down, still they pressed the stylus into the soft earth, still they made a mark that said this moment mattered enough to keep, not because they were certain of the future, but because they were faithful to the present. Not because everything was safe, but because they needed to make safety where they could, not because the world was simple, but because the world was still worth tending. If you have been tending your own life, quietly, repeatedly, without applause, then you are closer to them than you think. You have kept your lamp burning too. You have answered what needed answering. You have carried what needed carrying. You have endured the small weather of modern life, deadlines, noise, expectations, the hum of always being reachable. So allow yourself one more layer of gentleness. You do not have to announce it. You do not have to prove it. You can simply acknowledge, softly, I made it tonight, and because you made it tonight, you deserve the simplest gift the night can give, a body that loosens, a mind that stops gripping, a heart that feels held by something larger than its worries. This is why old myths last, not because they are perfect maps of reality, but because they are soft blankets for the nervous system. They remind you that humans have always tried to name the unknown, always tried to make a home beside forces larger than themselves, always tried to turn fear into shelter, one story at a time. Even the spaces in the tablets, those missing corners, can be part of the blanket. They are the places where the mind gets to stop, the places where you get to stop. So when your thoughts look for an ending, you can give them a gentle one. The day is over. The lamp is low. The river will continue without your attention, and you can disappear into rest. Before we let the last light dim, I'll leave you with one quiet invitation. The kind that does not wake you, only warms you. If this story gave you even a small pocket of peace, you can leave a gentle comment for yourself. Just a few calm words, like placing a pebble beside the lamp. And if you'd like more nights like this, remember to subscribe to Ancient Sleep Story, so you can return whenever the day feels too loud. Where are you listening from tonight? If you feel like sharing, your presence adds warmth to this quiet corner of the night. Here, no one rests alone. Every story from the past is a soft lantern in the dark, gently lighting our way. Now, let your breathing slow. Let the lamp become a dot. Let the dot become memory. Let the memory become silence. The tablet lies still. The river keeps moving. The world grows quiet again.